Everybody, thanks for joining me today. Opening day for the Yankee season. On my podcast today is Jon Dazey. Jon is the paint manager of White's Lumber. White's is in Watertown, New York. That's all the way up by the Canadian border. White's is a lumber yard, 4 locations. They just added their 5th location, paint only. So now they are going to be getting into standalone paint stores, which is interesting. That's not an unusual model. There are others that are doing that around the United States. What caused me to want to reach out to Jon is that White's Lumber is over 130 years old. They're one of the oldest independent retailers in the United States. And so they've got a really great history. They're really well connected in their community and cemented in their community. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about with Jon was their industrial program, because the industrial products they sell from Benjmain Moore in Pittsburgh, as well as Rust-Oleum and Carboline and many of the other ones. Industrial is a great opportunity for independent retailers. The retailers that I know that are really successful, the ones that are really killing it on all fronts, they all have a solid industrial sort of division, for lack of a better term, or at the very least a sales rep who's well trained in these products, or an owner who's well trained in these products, that really understands how to specify them and how to sell them. And Jon's team at White's is doing a really terrific job with that. And so I want you all to give a listen, like, subscribe, shoot me a text, shoot me an email. Brian, put my cell number up there. Let me know what it is that you want to hear. And I hope you enjoy my episode with Jon. Hey, everybody, thanks for joining me today. It's Mark. With me today on my podcast is Jon Dazey. Jon is the paint division manager for White's Lumber in upstate New York. Jon, how are you today?
Good. You know, it's been a busy couple of weeks, but things are great.
Well, unlike the rest of the country, you guys are still getting snow and selling salt. So good for you.
Absolutely.
So let's get right to it. As you can see, it's opening day here in New York. So I want to wrap this up with us, and I want to get the television on. You had a really interesting story which you shared with me during our prep on how you got into the business and a little bit about White. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Well, I'm Jon Dazey. I was originally hired at White's Lumber just for one store to kind of be the department manager over paint in a lumber yard. Shortly thereafter, I went into Benjmain Moore's OSR program, or outside sales rep program, and I covered the 4 stores that we had at that time. It was a pretty successful program, and paint was moving in a direction with our company that we thought we needed a paint store. So about a year and a half into the OSR program, we started planning a paint store in Watertown also. And we just opened our first standalone paint store about almost 2 years ago now. Wow. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, and good for you. And for dealers who are not familiar with the Benjmain Moore acronyms, the OSR is the outside sales rep program. And so, Jon, you were hired and paid for at least the first year and part of the second, from my recollection of the program. You were paid for by Benjmain Moore, and now you're actually managing the department for White. So that sounds like a fabulous program to me.
Yeah, no, the program was great. I highly recommend dealers looking into the outside sales rep program. It really gives you an additional leverage with your competition, creating relationships with customers beyond just over the sales counter.
When I first came into the business, Jon, my father was still working full time in the store. And, we didn't really need both of us there all day, every day. And I had just come out of 4 years as a stockbroker, which is, very sales intensive. And I'd had a lot of sales training. And so I said, well, you know what, Dad, I'm going to just hit the road and go out and pick up, whatever new business we can find. I was the first sales rep on the road in the Bronx. And
Oh, wow.
we crushed it. I mean, it was like taking candy from a baby. Now, it didn't stay like that. Obviously, people wised up, but having sales reps on the outside is crucial, in my opinion, for an independent retailer, because Sherwin-Williams and Home Depot, and frankly, even other Benjamin Moore stores are always looking to grow and they're always looking to gain more market share. And they're going to take it from you if you don't have an outside rep out there representing.
Yeah, absolutely. And from metrics we got from Benjmain Moore, I think we had less than 10% market share prior to the OSR program. And now we're, granted, we added a paint store, but now we're about 33% market share. It's
That's
been good.
really terrific. And that program, again, for dealers listening who don't know the details, and I don't know the specific details, but basically Benjamin Moore pays for a good chunk, if not all, of the first year of an outside sales rep salary, and then also a good chunk of the second year as well. Again, I'm out of the store, so I'm not as familiar with the details, but talk to your Benjamin Moore rep if you don't have an outside sales rep. It's a great way to grow your business. And particularly for me, what I wanted to talk to you about after our prep was the effect of having an OSR had on your industrial business, because that's what I remember when I was a dealer. Picking up industrial business was really the easiest way to grow my business. And we actually became, at the time, one of the largest Ben Moore industrial dealers in the country, just from my efforts going out on the road. Have you had a similar experience?
Absolutely. That's been a primary driver of our growth, especially with some of the government stuff we do. We are the spec for Fort Drum for their floor epoxies and stuff like that. Also became they call it AMPP certified now in coatings inspection. And for those that don't know, NACE and SSPC merged a few years ago.
Oh, I did that. I did know that. I was NACE 3. Is that like a similar?
Yeah, so I would be equivalent to NACE one and
Okay,
SSPC one. So I
gotcha.
haven't gone through the whole NACE 3 yet. Um, Managing my other responsibilities and whatnot, it'll take a little bit of time to get there. um,
From my experience, the NACE also added tremendous value, or what you're calling this new certification, added tremendous value when it came to closing industrial sales.
Yeah, absolutely. It really gives you credibility, that you know what you're talking about, and you're going to be providing the correct specifications, because NACE was all about specifications, right? The data sheet is the Bible.
And so, who is the customer that you guys are finding? You mentioned Fort Drum. That's obviously a large government contract. Are there others in that same category?
I deal with New York State State Office Building. We did there right here in Watertown. We did a lot of epoxy projects there. We've done some work on churches like steeples. It cost about $80,000 to get scaffolding set up for this church. So
Mhm.
they wanted a system that would last a little while when they, painted it, right?
Yep.
So my competitor spec'd a multi-purpose acrylic latex, and so we spec'd something a little bit more expensive, but it was a much higher end system, um, of polyamide epoxy and a polysiloxane top coat. And I think that'll give their church steeple a lot more longevity over the years, and they agreed. uh,
And so, who are the vendors for that? Are you getting all of that? I know you guys are a Benjamin Moore dealer. I can see it on your shirt, and we talked about that a little bit. Are you getting all of those products from Benjamin Moore, or are you dealing with other industrial vendors?
so I would say right now the lion's share of our business is Benjamin Moore in the Corotech line. They do a great job with the polyamides. They have the aliphatic urethanes. They have some really good primers. So I've done a lot with them. We are also PPG, so we deal a little bit with like the Amerlock and PSX 700 and those type of
And
things.
that was always considered probably the best industrial line that was available to retailers. PPG, is that still the case?
I would say PPG is most probably well known for industrial.
Yeah,
PPG does a great job with their industrial line, and they're constantly evolving.
yeah,
The last couple of years, it's been difficult getting supply, as everybody knows, and
yeah.
PPG has treated us pretty good. They try to get us the products that we need, be it, Mercury down in your area, right?
Oh
They
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they kind of set them up as a distributor for a little
They're a
while.
distributor down here. Are they still doing that?
They were. I haven't gotten anything from them in a while. Of course, we had the corporate stores that we were getting stuff from. If
Yep.
the distribution centers didn't have it, we kind of pivoted where we could. I mean, I think that's what everybody did, though, right? If you couldn't
Yeah.
get your Amberlock, then you went to V400, or you went to Carboline, for instance.
It
So
was
where
more a matter of who had the product. That's who got the sale.
exactly? Yep.
And so I wanted to talk about I know White's. The reason I reached out to you is I saw something on LinkedIn that White's goes back 130 years. And so I thought I'd love to get a little bit of that history if you don't mind sharing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the White's Lumber has been in business since 1892. So it's a little over 130 years now. We just had our 130th anniversary last year, and it's been in the same family for 130 years. I think we're on our fifth generation. They really let me run the paint division, which is great. They trust me, and we all get along pretty good that way.
Well, now all you need is a daughter and you got job security. One of the owner's daughters, maybe.
Don't tell my wife that.
Yeah. That's a long time to be in one community. You guys are in Watertown. How is that connection to the Watertown community?
It's great. People that have been here their whole lives. I mean, they've grown up with Whites. It was their father's hardware store, lumberyard, right? So
Yep.
it's or their grandfathers. So we have generational customers, and it's really great. And it's the when I first started at White's, which was about 5 years ago, it kind of reminded me of Cheers. The old TV show Cheers, where everybody knows your name, right? So,
Right.
so like we have hundreds of customers, obviously, but most of the customers, most of our sales reps know by name. So and vice versa, the customers all know the employees, and they notice when employees aren't there, or something's off with an employee or something like that. So it's a really good relationship that we have with the
You,
community.
the business that I sold, I don't know if I mentioned this during the prep. My family's business was 112 years old when I sold it. And even now, I still have to go back from time to time. I still own the building, so I have to, I was there last week for a new insurance company to take some pictures and stuff. And the people in the neighborhood still associate me with the paint business. I still see them. They still, that business had been in that spot for so many years, like I said, over a century in the Bronx. You
Yeah.
really get connected to the neighborhood. The Little League teams were, had Tremont Paint and the Pop Warner football, Tremont Paint, and you really get connected to the neighborhoods.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I just wanted to talk about one other thing before we wrap it up. We had talked about during our prep, you mentioned earlier you have one new paint store and you might have some interest in some other stores. What are some of the challenges that you face? You really have two businesses. You have a hardware business and a lumber business. What are some of the challenges that you face as far as keeping your people trained and ready to do the job as it relates to that?
We kind of mostly separate the business a little bit. I'm the paint division manager, so I have paint people that report to me in each store, and also the paint store. So we do weekly trainings to try to keep them up to date. They're pretty short trainings, but we do like teams meetings and things like that to try to
Mhm.
keep everybody on the same page. I try to visit the stores as much as I can to be in person and help train our in-store people. So that's kind of how we deal with it on the paint side. And on the hardware lumber side, it's pretty much the same thing. We have window vendors come in and do seminars. We have flooring vendors come in and do seminars. Sometimes I have some paint people go to those because it kind of crosses over into our world a little bit.
Training to me is probably the thing that independent retailers think the least about that could have the biggest impact on their business. People are always surprised. I'm working with a two-store dealer now on a consulting project. And one of the things that we're doing is setting an agenda for regular team meetings, like every 2 weeks. We're going to get together and talk about something every 2 weeks. And the dealer actually gave me a little pushback, but listen, if you don't tell your employees what their job is and how you want them to do it, how are they going to know? And in the absence of you telling them good job or how to do their job, then all it's going to get is frustration. All that will happen is frustration for them when you come in and say, hey, it's not going the way I wanted it to. I didn't
Right,
know.
right, exactly. Yeah. So
And
if you don't set clear expectations, then
yeah, so those team meetings are a great place to do that, right?
yeah, absolutely. They're great for communication, great for just digging in. And I mean, a lot of times we'll go product specific. Sometimes we'll just have a discussion and say, this is what's going on in the industry. This is what's going on in, our areas. And we have 5 stores now, and
Yep.
we cover from Pulaski pretty much, which is just north of Syracuse, to just about Plattsburgh. So we have a pretty wide
That's
reach.
wide, actually. Yeah, that's a couple hundred miles right there.
Yeah, and we deal with customers pretty much everywhere in between there. So our demographics aren't all the same either. So we kind of discuss some of the challenges that we
Yeah,
have in those demographics.
makes training that much more important. Well, what a terrific, terrific way to end it. Jon Dazey of White's Paint and Lumber in upstate New York. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
making a few minutes and being on my show today. I really appreciate it.
absolutely, Mark. And thank you for having me on your show. And I'd like to thank all the employees and owners of White's Lumber also for, you know, making all this possible.